up to speed, up to speed, up to speed.
Live from the apocalypse, the #1 hip-hop show for people taking a bath. State of the game. Sipping Chianti, listening to us. You can't beat that.
With the candles, yeah.
That's the vibe we have. I am Dano, your host. I am the Greek god of meh, you know. And my co-host every week is someone so wealthy that he has hired a third-party contractor to wrestle with his inner demons. You know what I mean? He's outsourced. K Diggy, thank you for being here.
Yeah, man.
Yep. So, glad you're here wearing a polo shirt. For years, I refused to wear a polo shirt.
So comfortable.
Because I was like, the world is run by white people in polo shirts. I had that in my head. I don't know what happened, but I was just like, fuck polo shirts. You know,
I'm trying to take the power back. You know,
that's right. That's right. Yes. So thank you. It's a mid-year show. We've stepped away from the old format, right? And we had a unique journey with the format, right? Because a lot of shows, when they're coming into they experiment with formats, we were like lists right off the bat, like for years. We were just lists, and we never experimented with it, and it became kind of cumbersome, really. So we had that. The people should go back. The episode with Def C at the beginning of the year, where we talked about lists, had that discussion. We promised to switch it up. We're switching it up. It's more of a conversation. So, man, what a year. What sticks out to you about this year so far?
I mean, there's a lot of trends that I'm recognizing. I mean, particularly, I think the Kendrick Drake beef is a landmark. I think we're going to see. I think that was an important thing for hip hop music in 2024.
Right.
So that's one thing, and then the rise of female rappers is the other thing.
So let's start there, because the superlatives, we're switching to superlative categories, right? So as of right now, there's one category we have that is 2024 most interesting discussion, right? And I had beef in there, right? And it's interesting because I would say, to talk about it a little bit, this beef doesn't feel like you wounded my heart and I'm lashing. Like, I don't know if you remember, Beanie Siegel beefed with Jadakiss like way back in the day for a brief stint, and there was real personal anger in that. Like, these were friends that felt betrayed, right? And going at each other. That's not how a lot of these feel. These feel like, I don't know, market wrestling a little bit. Wrestling for position within the market.
Oh, okay. Market position. I like that.
Like, why is Nikki going so hard at Megan? Like, what has Megan ever done but try and be friendly to all these cats?
Well, it's like defending market share. You're right. I like right. Yeah. You got your share of the market, and you have to defend your turf.
Right. There was the John Leguizamo Empire movie. There's a great line where he's talking about, why would you go to war? Just let it be. And he's like, those guys move into my block this much. Cost me $30,000 a day. I can't fuck with that. So, like, people are wrestling over that market share a little bit, and relevancy when we talk about staying relevant, it almost sounds watery. It doesn't sound like it stands in reality. Market share probably makes it more real for people, right? Like
Mhm.
Nikki, there's a whole wave of female artists who are friends, right? Like they're cool with each other.
Right.
And so what are you gonna do? You're gonna have to, fight back.
Well,
That
it reminds me a lot of like, you know how there's like in the NBA there's like the beef with the old players and
yeah.
the younger
Yep.
players. It's almost like that because the old players are looking at it as almost, and like you look at Nikki's looking at it like, I paved the way for you guys.
Right.
And so she's almost saying like not necessarily deferment, but you should show me a level of respect.
Right. Yeah. And the beef. Well, and the thing is, you can show her. They've shown her respect, right? They've all
Mhm.
said the right things. There's no respect that Megan can show that will keep Nikki relevant for the next 10 years. Because by the way, Nikki's still selling. Whenever Nikki puts out stuff, she's box
Absolutely.
office busted, but she doesn't have the water cooler anymore, right? She doesn't have the like nobody's chattering about it. You know what I mean? The numbers for
Right.
Freak
She's
Friday 2
not
are
that
good.
dominant force that she used to be.
Nobody talked about it. Nobody buzzed about it. Nobody was, it wasn't, it was just it. So she has her fan base,
Mhm.
right? And they make sure those streams are right and the tours are right and the money's right, but you're still kind of off to the side while these other people are in the primary window.
Well, it's almost kind of like a stock, like a stock will keep going up, but there's a point where like for growth, like to grow, you're gonna have to attract new business. And Nikki's stock was going up and this is not just exclusive to Nikki.
Right.
Most rappers are thing like their stock is going up, and there's a point where now they have to struggle to gain new audience to keep that stock price going up.
Right.
And so
Right.
this is almost about like her. She has her loyal base. I think they call it Barbie. She's got
Barbie.
her loyal base, but the base isn't growing.
Yeah, it's the same place Eminem is at, right? Like,
Mm.
and you're not retired, but you're off to the side. You're making stuff for your people,
Right.
which by the way, like we talked to Superstition, other people, they're totally cool with that. But when
Right.
you have been on top of the world before,
Yeah.
ooh, it's tough. It's tough. It's like Iverson moving to the bench. So
Right. Huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the basic, if someone said what it characterized this beef in 2024, I would say structures falling apart.
Hmm. And when you say structures, what do you mean?
Beef, Kendrick, the big three is a great example, right?
Hmm.
The big three, because my son's been asking me, well, how did this start? What happened here? Like,
Mm.
I've been trying to explain it. Like, these dudes have known each other for more than 10 years at this point, like for a long time, for like probably 15. Um,
I
and
mean, right. Because uh, Take Care came out, what, in 2011, maybe?
right, right.
So, I mean, that's going 13, 14 years. Yeah.
Yeah. These guys have known and been around each other for that long, right?
Yeah.
And so it's there there was kind of a structure that was built of how they would interact. You'll be over there, I'll be over there, we'll
Right.
we'll be good in our lane. And I think that structure collapsed.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was agreed. I think, when they first came out, there was that competition. But I think when you like, if you look at their first projects,
Yeah.
there was that competition, and then I think they just naturally like Drake was like, okay, I'm gonna go the pop route. I'm gonna be a pop star. Cole was like, I'm going to be the everyman, like I'm gonna be the relatable one. And Kendrick was like, okay, I'll be the prestigious one. I'll be the one who's winning Pulitzers.
Yep. And
Um,
yeah, no, you keep going. You
and
do.
so like they went their natural routes, and it was fine. They weren't stepping on each other's toes.
Right. And then, but over time, with in a relationship, baggage builds up. If
Yeah.
it doesn't, if you don't have a face to face, you suck. Like conversation, it builds and keeps building and keeps festering. Right.
It reminds me of it's like there's a saying. It's like when you're climbing a mountain, it's not the mountain that bothers you, it's the pebble in your shoe
Yep. Yep.
that bothers you.
Yep. And so that is the problem with being friends with Drake. Drake is the pebble in your shoe, right? He is constantly throwing subliminals at everyone,
Hmm.
everyone.
Hmm.
And like they're weird. They're weird. Like he's been throwing subliminals at Push for how long after the beef?
Yeah.
Push doesn't respond because they're like tepid subliminals a little bit. They're not that pointed.
Right.
They're it's just kind of naggy a little bit,
It's like Kendrick said, I hate the way that you sneak this. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's been doing that to Kendrick for a long time, and Kendrick's been doing it to him for probably even longer.
Hmm.
We said on the beef episode, I think Kendrick has never been comfortable with how Drake operates, but
Hmm.
like they carved out each other's space and let it go. But over time, it became a thing where Drake was like, stop making this seem like a breakfast club that we're in. Fuck that. I do what I do by myself,
Hmm.
right? Like with my people and my team. You know, I think it was a big thing for him to be like, stop lumping these dudes in with me when they don't do what I do.
Right.
And he knocked over the structure, you know. And he looked right at Drake and was like, I'm gonna show you. He let Drake strike first, obviously, so he could, but he was ready. And so the beef, and there's more. There's like JT from City Girls and Glorilla going at it. There's all kinds of little beefs that feel like
Yeah.
structures kind of coming apart here, uh, existing structures, you know.
Hmm.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. I never thought of it like that, but yeah, I mean, there's been tension in the structures now for years.
Yep.
Uh, but as you know, as, as a business, as the structure evolves, that tension is going to get more pronounced.
Do you think some of this is that like Ye was kind of the number one dude for a long time, right?
Mm, okay.
And he really isn't at this point.
No. I mean, it can be his relevancy is it's in like I mean his projects used to really like shake the world, musical world in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Can you imagine being in a conversation and someone says the best rap artist in the world right now is Kanye West?
Oh, in 2020, if someone said that in 2024, yeah, no, that's not.
Your jaw would drop,
Yeah.
right? Like, but what? Like, so he's kind of out. And
Hmm.
with Ye out, the structure is all over the place, right? Because those big three were still kind of on a plane underneath Ye and Jay for a while.
Right. Right.
And then now it's, yeah, the structures come unglued, man. And I'm wondering if this happens in pop music not too far from now.
With T Swift, I mean, there, but I think Taylor's another. She's a different animal. How do I say it? Like I think there's levels. I think we've talked about this before. I think there's levels to playing the game, and I think Taylor knows how to play the game in a ruthless way. So I don't think she's going to necessarily run into the same problems that Drake ran into, because she's done such a good job essentially crushing her competition.
Yeah, the Drake downfall feels very Tony Montana. It's very like, sure, it's everybody versus me, but oh well, I'm gonna beat them all. And it was like, okay, all right.
The bar, yeah. So you, and I think, with Drake, Drake was, I mean, Kendrick was clearly Drake's rival,
Right.
and I don't think in pop there is no rival for Taylor, because she's eliminated.
But isn't Beyonce there as well?
No, but Beyonce's done the same thing with R&B. Like who's Beyonce?
Right.
Well, I mean, there used to be Rihanna, but Rihanna just decided to take her ball and go home and become a billionaire in terms of fashion, and like.
But to me, like, didn't like so I consider Taylor and Beyonce in the same space. Like, because and they have kind of obliterated these worlds around them a little bit, right? Because yeah, Rihanna took her ball and went home. Lord peeks out sometimes, to do stuff. Like it's not, but those are the two pop chart people.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, one of my
Yeah.
theories that I have here is that the pop star is dying out a little bit.
Yeah.
The pop star that we grew up with is dying out a little bit.
The concept of pop star.
Exactly. So, like,
Yes.
take Mariah Carey as an example, right? Mariah Carey was R&B, right? Babyface and all that stuff, and then became a pop star, right? And pop star didn't just mean sales; it meant an artist that could be a little bit of everything. Like,
Okay.
that could be, acceptable, that could do a hip hop ish track, could do an R&B ish track, could do, could take the most palatable forms of all these things and make it a singular persona that wasn't tedious, right? Like, so to me, Beyonce's a pop star in the same manner Taylor is, because neither of them exist within their subgenres anymore. Like, they are pop stars.
They've superseded, right? They
Yeah.
It's like Chris Rock. He has that joke. He's like, "You're black famous. I'm famous."
Right. Right.
That's almost like right. So yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from. I don't think that they're necessarily direct competitors in a way. Like they've carved up their kingdoms. Like, okay, this is my side. This is your side.
And how long can they do that? How long can that work? Because like I listened to Cowboy Carter
Yeah,
and it had some joints on it, like not
yeah.
taking a shot, but it wasn't it, you know, it felt like her having a laugh. Like it didn't feel as serious. You could feel the difference in her best work from this. Like I told my wife, this will be on page 3 or 4 of her write up as an
Oh,
artist.
for sure. I mean, I think we're on the tail end. Yes, I think we're on the tail end of their careers, and I do think like in terms of evolution, like once the apex predator or animal is out of the ecosystem, then there's like a huge vacuum, and something's gonna fill the vacuum. So I don't I don't know what's gonna fill that vacuum, because they've done, like the Taylors and the Beyoncés, they've done such a good job of clearing out their competition
Mhm.
that I can't even envision what's going to come after them, what's going to fill that space.
Yep. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but this has to end at some point, right?
Yes.
Like I tell people that about the Senate all the time. People are always mad about Congress. They're like, these motherfuckers, their average is 86 years old. Like everybody in there is fucking ancient. And I'm like, that's true, and it sucks now, but they can't live forever, dog. What
Mm.
happens when this whole generation of old evil ass senators die? What's the next one? Like that's where my head's at with obviously Taylor Swift is different than that, but uh Taylor and Beyonce have been on top for a long time, and they can't keep being on top for like for an infinite amount of time. Like it's hard to do. Someone is going to
Right.
have to present themselves.
Right. No, I mean, but then again, that also kind of draws the question to me is I I think I think the labels, like the structure of the machine is different now. And I think the labels have control of the machine now
Right.
in a way that they didn't in the past.
Really? Okay.
And like you look at, like there's something to be said for when the labels have control of the top artists in the field. Like that does something to the machine. Like Taylor Swift and Drake being signed to UMG, and signed huge contracts, like 9-figure contracts. That does something to the industry, does something to the machine.
Right.
When the top dog is essentially under control, that there's a ripple effect all through the industry.
Yeah, and so my point was different, and my perspective was a little different, just in the sense that so with the pop star dying out,
Mm-hmm.
I think it is mostly because generationally, m- my generation before was comfortable with pop stars who amalgamated all these sounds, right? I think there's a younger generation that thinks of that as very insincere. And then it's one of the reasons Drake got called out so many times for doing the Atlanta sound, doing the UK sound, doing the reggaeton. Like he was, because I think there's a whole generation that's like, that's some bullshit. That's not sincere, right?
Mm,
There's a
mm,
lot right now, there's a lot of people who are forging their own lane in kind of interesting substrata niches, but they reach up a little bit to the main space.
Like who are you thinking?
So I just wrote a thing. It's up for the Patreon, but it's going to be available to everybody on Sunday. It's a song review on "I Might Say Something Stupid" by Charlie XCX off her new
Okay.
album Rat.
Hmm.
And I was writing about the song, but I was also kind of reflecting, like, I've been a Charlie fan for 10 years now,
Hmm.
you know, and she's a force. Like, she's on every soundtrack, you know what I mean? Uh, she's got Lucy's all over the place, new projects, bangers, collaborations, but her tastes are a little too askew for the pop space, right? She's doing songs with Cupcake, and she's like, she loves these kind of dirtier dance beats.
Hmm.
She's a little odd for the main space. So she carved out her lane on the side
Right.
and has been drifting to the center over these 10 years. So I think that's probably what we're going to see even more. We're going to see people come up from, like, you think about Tyler the Creator, right?
Hmm.
Like, do you know how many people knew of Tyler the Creator before Flower Boy? Like, it wasn't a lot. Like, it was our people, right? The hip hop folks. Odd Future. Odd Future was an internet thing, but it didn't sell like crazy. It wasn't
Right.
huge. Post Flower Boy, Tyler's on another level. Igor, the whole deal. So uh, he worked his way to that mainstream, right? Or the mainstream worked his way to him, or however you want to say it. But he never stopped being a strange artist making stuff that is not that perfect center we talked about. Um, yeah.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I think interesting. I mean, to tie, because I think to tie to the pop star angle, I think it's really going to be in the future. It's really going to be. Do you have a compelling story? Because
Yeah.
I think Tyler, like people were familiar with Tyler, but they always had I mean, the first video was Yonkers. What was the first?
Right, right,
What was
right.
that video? It was like a very odd video.
Yeah,
No pun
yeah, yeah.
intended.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, some I forgot the name of it. But so people were always had that for me. Like I always had that idea of Tyler from the Yonkers video.
Right.
I think Flower Boy he took a new narrative and he created a compelling story that so it was Flower Boy and then he perfected with Igor.
Right.
And so I think in the future now it's going to be the music is going to matter, and you're seeing this with Taylor now, maybe even a little bit Beyonce. People don't necessarily, I mean, the music connects with them, sure, but it's really the narrative and it's really the character that they're playing that's really getting people to go in and buy this product.
I think audiences want to connect to the artist in a real way now. Um,
Or feel like they're connected in a real
yes,
way.
yes,
Yes.
yes. And this is where I think I would give, like, get into another category here.
Yeah.
Um, we'll see most fascinating character would we do, or no, voice. 2024 voice, right? Who's the voice that has captured 2024? There, let me give you two, and I want
Okay.
you to give me one too. Um,
Okay.
but um, what was the previous category? Did you give me one for the previous category? What was the?
No, what did we say? The beef? I think it was the beef, right?
Yeah. Oh no, yeah. That was my. What other discussion topic do you think has been important?
Oh, and so it was beef, pop star. I think AI is going to be huge.
Yep, the AI.
Uh,
Yeah,
I mean that's something that really worries me. AI.
AI and a beef felt gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great one. 2024 voice, right?
Hmm.
The voice that is connected the most with you 2024. I've got two that are kind of running together, right?
Okay.
Um, and I created a playlist for them. Um, I created a playlist that synced up Dark Times by Vince Staples
Hmm.
and Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish,
Mm.
and had one for one. And I was like, because there's a common thread there to me of artists who can may give you the rawest, saddest shit in their life and make it knock, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
Like you you still don't end up depressed by the end of the album because it knocks enough, but it doesn't sacrifice how hard a personal journey it is.
Yeah, because there's almost like for both of those artists, there's almost like a matter of factness to it, like, hey, this is life, man. Like,
Right.
hey, c'est la vie. This is it is what it is. If,
Yeah.
or they to me, here's what I'll say. To me, both of those artists be the thing what they embody to me is it be like that. The saying it be like that sometimes.
That's a great one.
Uh yeah, and I mean that's that saying it be like that sometimes. That's a comforting phrase for this generation. Honestly.
Right. I mean, it's so they're both artists that call out the industry, call out trends within the industry in their
Hmm.
right. They also call themselves out, right? They
Hmm.
also um, call out relationship problems. They're also funny and
Yeah.
humor, right? Um, so being able to combine those, they just have more dimension in the music where it's not just this is my album about like how hard it is on this one thing, right? It's not it's a mixture of things.
Right.
And
And
that
it's
mixture
funny because the voice, I think of like the voice is when you mention voice, I think of like are what artist voice are reflecting the zeitgeist, the mood of the generation that they're singing to. And I think both of those artists they do like they have their thumb on the pulse of what's driving their generation.
and thank you for that. I forgot to clarify. You're absolutely right. In terms of just vocal delivery, they both have a playful flatness to their voice.
Hmm.
It isn't necessarily flat,
Right.
but is this is what it is like tone, right?
Yeah.
So but they can get bouncy like that lunch song from Billie Eilish. That shit bounces. That's fun. The video's
Yeah.
fun, right? She can let herself have fun. Vince can let himself
Yeah.
go on etouffee, right?
And it's important because I think particularly with pop, that's what ages you out when you don't have your thumb on the pulse. When you can't speak like the generation you're trying to sell to, that's when people start moving away. And I think, look at Taylor's. I don't know if you heard the Tortured Poet Society.
I did not.
To me, like listening, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about that, but listening to that project, that was someone who was trying to reflect the sensibilities of her audience.
Mm.
And I think in a way, like that's why Billie has been wildly successful in the past couple of years, is because she does that. And I think Vince is really starting to catch like his bearing.
Yeah, this run from Vince is incredible, right?
Yeah.
Self-titled Purple album to uh yeah, Rosecrans to uh to this Dark Times is incredible, you know. Um yeah, so
What was what was it?
Ramona
Ramona
Park,
broke my
that's right. She broke my heart with
yes.
Ramona Park. Jeez. Rosecrans is a DJ Quick problem. Anyway,
Hmm.
but yeah, that 3 albums is incredible.
Yeah.
It drove me back into his other stuff. I'm when I talk about voice, I don't actually mean the voice, right?
Hmm.
I'm talking whenever I talk about voice, I'm talking about your voice as a writer,
Hmm.
right? Because
Hmm.
finding your voice as a writer is hard, right? Finding the performing is the same deal, right? It's about your voice and knowing your voice and what fits you. There was like I remember, I don't know if I've referenced this before. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Ray Romano was on a podcast and he
Hmm.
said he wrote an excellent dirty joke, but he gave it to someone else because he's like, Ray Romano can't say this joke.
Hmm. Hmm.
So like he knows his voice, right? He knows a Ray Romano joke.
Right. The brand, he knows his brand.
Yes. And so knowing your voice, there's tears to it. It's not a pass fail, right? And these are A plus plus knowing your voice writers, right? I can't get Billie
Mm.
Eilish type songs anywhere. I can't get Vince Staples type songs anywhere.
You can get things that sound like it. Yeah, you're right. And I mean that's a very good point because I think that's what you're because that I mean to me when you say voice, I interpret it as soul.
Oh,
Like
okay.
you know what I mean? And that's going to be the distinction, like, and to kind of tie it in with AI, like they're going to be able to very soon, if not already, they're able to replicate voices pitch perfect.
Right.
So I can talk into a filter and that I can sound like a Drake. You know what I mean? And this kind of ties also into the beef as well with Kendrick. But to, the voice and the soul can't be replicated. So I could talk into a filter and sound like Billie Eilish, voice wise and vocally, but her soul and the way that she puts her thoughts together and the way she delivers, that I cannot replicate.
Right. Right. It's yeah, uh there's just songs, they're just like, very unique. So I just think those people are killing it because there's a lot of people who are working in the darkness, who are working in the ugly truth genre
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
music, but I don't know that they make it as important to the listener as Eilish and Vince, right? Like it's about because every song's different. Every this the turn in Dark Times where like you know you got the short story song Liars and stuff, or Jason, and like it's these songs are so different and they segue into each other perfectly. And there's the beginning Nikki Giovanni conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's all really well put together
Yeah.
uh, to make that point. And yeah, they're just great at crafting their music. You
Yeah.
know,
And they are artists who are thoughtful and when they've sung about something, they put some thought into really analyzing it and breaking it down. Like Vince in particular is a very analytical person.
right.
And you can't you can't replicate the way that someone's mind thinks
Yeah, and I
and
think,
how they deliver it.
and if you're going to be in this pop space, trying like you cross the boundary where you have fans. Billie Eilish and Vince Staples are both artists who do not poop out albums every couple months.
Right.
So they sit and they do their thing. Drake would remember making fun of Kendrick for you're not really even out here. It takes years to release albums, and then Kendrick stepped out, bang, bang, bang. Right? Um, Kendrick is not sitting there because he can't rap anymore. He's sitting there because he's working on what makes sense for him, and he's going to do it on his table, on his time.
You know, it's funny because I was thinking about that. I was thinking about this yesterday in terms of hip hop, and particularly in terms of underground and like the rapid production. And I think, with pop, the way I thought, and I don't know why this thought popped into my head. I was just driving and I'm thinking, like, if it's so easy for an artist to produce a song, what is that telling? What is that saying to the listener? Like, if I hear an album in March or something, and I know, okay, this artist is pretty prolific, I'll probably get another album in June. What are you training your audience to do?
Let me give you a different way to think about it.
Okay.
Because it might be simpler than that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Let's say you're ST Knack, right? Because the underground space is different from the pop space.
Mm-hmm.
Those two artists, I said, they had already kind of taken the world by storm and gotten their things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're ST Knack from Boston, Massachusetts, and you just start cranking out music,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why are you cranking out music? What does it add? You know what it adds? Every new project you put out with a new person,
Yeah,
reaches a different set of people.
and
So he does a collab album with Mike Schaub. Mike Schaub's from Montreal, right? Now the Montreal folks are tapping into ST Knack. He does an album with Griselda, released with Griselda. Now they're hearing Knack for the first time. By doing this with me, you know that sometimes the fourth album, fifth album is the first one you heard. And that's the one that connects you. So if you keep releasing,
mm-hmm.
You keep putting your line in the water. Like,
But
yeah.
what I would say to that is, if you're, like the way, and I was thinking about like this too, like, because if you're trying to create a fan base, like think about like Mariah Carey. We'll go back to Mariah Carey. When Mariah Carey releases an album, right, and then goes and does a concert with thousands of people, everyone in that building knows that song and is singing along.
Right.
There's a community. Now, if you're presenting several different versions of yourself to your audience, so that means when you have a concert, you're gonna have you're gonna have a section of it like, oh, I like album 1 version of this artist. You're gonna have a section like, oh, I like album 2 version of this.
Correct. But
so
at least
you're
they're
kind
all
of
there.
split.
At least
Your base doesn't really have a community because you have multiple subdivided communities in your base.
Right. What I think what you do, what people do, because Vince, we go back to Vince, right? Vince Staples. Yeah. Mixtape artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Released a bunch of mixtapes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Vince Cold Chain 1, 2, whatever, like released a bunch of mixtapes to get his footing. Did a bunch of features to get his footing, right?
Right.
And once he did that, and once he got bigger and bigger looks, slowed down. as he escalated in popularity, he slowed down. Right? What was it? There was the Rick Ross quote. He's like, I can't do mixtapes. Every song I make is special now. Right.
Right.
So you cross a line there. A lot of the people that we're dealing with who are releasing a ton of stuff are still trying to get footing, and this is an attempt to find that footing. If they do, though, they need to slow down once they do, is my point.
You know, like I think of like, you know, like a, I don't know, maybe we'll go like a 50 Cent. Like you go to a 50 Cent concert, you know what songs are, you know, probably your favorite song is going to be performed.
Right.
So for me, like if you're out here popping out records and they're, you know, each record is a different direction. Like if I'm a fan, I don't know what I'm going to get when I go to your show. I don't even know if you're going to play my favorite song because you have so many different versions of yourself.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Like I went to see 50 Cent live, right?
Yeah.
And I think he saw somebody in a Ja Rule shirt, or somebody yelled just something pro Ja Rule. He stopped the show, put the spotlight on the guy, and he did this song about being a pussy to the guy's face that it was from a mixtape. It was about Ja. He did a snippet of that, and then he had security throw him out, right? Classic 50 Cent story. But I looked around and was like, I'm probably the only one in this building who knows that song.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like 50 Cent did release a ton of mixtapes. He
Mm-hmm.
absolutely did flood the streets.
Yeah.
And he became like, people were like, he's the king of New York mixtapes. And then he got the deal, and then he curated his album. Right? So that's my thing, is like there's different speeds at different levels of visibility.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get more resources, your fans will expect you to utilize those resources in a way that pays off, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's the, you know, the Milwaukee, you know, a small market team has a different expectation level than a big market team,
Right.
right?
Right.
They're going to be a lot more patient with you because you don't have the resources. Once you do have these massive resources, fans are going to look at you like, where's this money going?
Mm-hmm.
So, Vince, Kendrick, the solution is, I'm going to hit you really hard when I have it right.
Right. And they've turned, I mean, they've turned their projects into events.
Right.
And I mean, I do think that that's missing. Like, you know, when Kendrick drops, apparently it's coming soon. That's going to be an event.
Sure.
People are going to stay up till 12 a.m. I remember when Mr. Morale came out. I was overseas in a country that had like a 7-hour time difference,
Mm-hmm.
or it was something like that. So when I listened to, I stayed up till like, I set my alarm and I think I woke up at like 5 a.m. and I was looking at the iTunes, waiting to listen to this project at 5 a.m.
Damn.
And I think you've got to figure out a way to make your albums events.
Yeah, I think the person I would like to see do that
Mm-hmm.
is Boldy James. I really like Boldy James as an MC. He's
Mm-hmm.
really good. Uh, penalty of leadership from earlier this year with Nicholas Craven is very good, but I kind of need him to consciously do a different kind of album. Just a little bit of a flavor change.
Yeah, I mean, and I actually had an idea, and I don't know where this came from. Maybe we've gone over it, but and this is kind of like another thing that I think we're going to see in the future, and it could apply to Boldy James. Like I think of it like think of like a Picasso, right?
Right.
Like Picasso has thousands of pieces of art, right?
Yep.
And there's some art that ends up in major museums, and then there's some art that just stays in like his own personal studio or something
Yep.
that only you have to go to. So I think maybe what we're going to see, and this is an idea, is, I'm sure that one of the artists that we've had on the show has talked about it. I think we're going to start seeing like how there's patron for like, we think of patron in terms of like either writing or in terms of like art, like physical art.
Right.
I think we're going to see artists with patron pages where they say like, look, this project is only on Patreon. It's behind this wall.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, didn't Chesky said he was going to do that, and I think
maybe that's where I heard the idea.
Chesky said
I
he was
think
going to, yeah.
We're going to start, so you can release 1,000 projects, but to hear this project, you're going to have to get my Patreon, and I'll release like a project for the mainstream on stream, and I'll put it on streaming. I'll release vinyls, physicals, but there are some projects, more niche projects, that are only behind this Patreon wall.
Shout out to the Chesky episode that's up in the streaming space now. What amazing episode. And in that episode, Chesky said, I want to put out music for the people that I want to hear the music. I'm not interested in climbing anymore. Right? I'm not interested in fighting for new audience space market share anymore. Right?
Yes.
And that is an important thing to do within yourself. Right? Are you interested in more market share? If so, you need to get uncomfortable. If you like to release albums, every few weeks, you're going to need to hold it and wait and do something different and make albums in a different way, because you're doing the same thing over and over again, right?
And you're teaching your audience not to value your music. It's almost like, to me, it's almost like musical diarrhea. Right. Like if I know, and I know it's kind of graphic, but like you're teaching your audience to devalue your songs, your individual songs, because they know, like if you've released 15 projects, or if you've released 3 projects in a year that have, with over, each of them has 10 songs, 30 songs, you've got maybe 35 songs that you released in a year. That's difficult for any musician. That's difficult for any audience to digest.
Right.
And you're almost taking away the value. Like you produce so much that they know, okay, like they're not getting that dopamine hit when you do release a project. Your projects are no longer events. It's just something like, oh shit, this artist released the album. Oh, I can't wait to put that on when I'm working, when I'm at work at 10 a.m.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to follow all that stuff.
Right.
But it is a path. And I think when we've seen it done successfully, we've seen it done for like a year. Right? You do that for like a year, you pump out crazy projects, everybody gets your name buzz up, and then you slow it down and you're hitting them once a year, twice a year. Like,
see, yeah, you're right. Cause I'm thinking of didn't Rock Marciano, was that who it is?
Yeah.
He had that 1 year where he released maybe it was either 2 or 3 projects.
Yep.
And that was the big year. And then after that, you saw like, okay, now we're slowing it.
It's year. Yeah. No, I think that's a successful thing. But it's like driving a car. You're going to have to slow down. You're going to have to speed up. You're going to have to be in control of that and figure out where you want to be. So that's my pick for voice. What is your pick for the 2024 voice for you?
I mean, to me, I mean, it's really Kendrick as of right now. But in terms of who do I think reflects the zeitgeist? Hmm. I'm gonna have to think of, because I think all of the, in terms of the pop sphere, I think all of the top voices are controlled by the labels already. So
See,
there's
I think I disagree with that in terms of
okay.
I think the labels are trying to pick and pop and grab people up who are coming into that sphere. It's less controlled by labels because some of it is controlled by Spotify playlists, right? Some of it is
Who are
controlled
in
by,
bed with the labels.
well,
Like,
but
I think the labels even control, you can control the Spotify playlist by bots. You can use technology. And it's funny because the playlists control the taste. I think that the labels have control over, or at least they're, if not control, they're at least in bed with the streaming.
I mean, I just think there's a lot of people who come into the pop space, take over, and the labels didn't even plan for it, and they have to adjust. But
Mm.
in terms of, uh, yeah, should we talk about the bad bitch era thing that
Oh
happened?
yeah,
Right.
go ahead.
So
Yeah.
like, I I think this is super awesome. And I guess we could tie this into um most interesting character, most fascinating character
Okay.
so far. I'm gonna go Flo Millie.
Mm.
She just did an
And
incredible Tiny Desk. Everybody should check that out.
how are you distinguishing voice and character?
Just character is a lot less, a lot easier to explain, right? Most fascinating
Okay.
character is just like the most interesting person to you. Like, who do you find yourself thinking about? Like, this guy's so interesting. This person's so interesting. To me, Flo Millie's incredibly interesting.
Hmm.
Um, there's the bad bitch era that I was talking about is there's a group of female MCs that are top of the charts right now and like a top of everybody's, like, the name on their tongue, like that they talk about all the time. Uh
I mean, you could be. I would even say that right now, in terms of the pop, space and hip hop, it's female dominated right now.
we could talk like Ice Spice, Glorilla, Cardi B, Megan the
Meg,
Stallion,
who released the album like today.
yeah, Flo Millie, like, so you got like
Yeah.
all these artists, and I know the rap about them is that they're talking about sex all the time. They call it like stripper rap, but this is not. Look, I was a big fan of stripper rap.
Mm.
Not gonna lie, this is not stripper rap. I'm here to tell you guys, this is different. And I the same way we look. I remember hearing West Side Gun's "Fly God" for the first time,
Mhm.
and I hit my friend and was like, "Yo, you got to hear this. This is a thing. This is a movement." Right? Like, this is officially a movement. And so I think we will look back at Tina Snow and Period by City Girls as indicators of this era, because the music is sexual, but it's about ethics and the ethics around how to live your life.
Hmm.
Out of nowhere, Flo Millie will say,
To me, I listened to the Meg project
"Yep,
today,
yep, it's very good."
and to me, it wasn't stripping. It was more like pimp music, where
Yes.
like these women are talking like, how do I say that? Like, sex is the new currency.
they're talking about control, right?
Right. And
Control of the
they're
money.
talking like they're
Yeah.
reshaping the sexual conversation where,
Right.
guys used to talk about look at how much, look at how much sex that I get. The
Right.
women have controlled it, like, look at how I use this to control these guys out here.
But it's not. Yes, that I mean that is it's about control of your own money.
Look at how weak these
Yeah.
men are they can't resist.
Well, and it gets even deeper than that, right? Because it's about having your own shit, right? It's about having your own shit
But
and not being reliant on who you're having sex with, right?
right.
There's a line in Flo Milli's song where she just says, "I'll never use my pussy for revenge." Like
Yeah.
that's like the codes of the game type shit that Flo Milli talks about, that you heard from City Girls of like, you don't do this to me, I don't do this to you. Here's how this space interacts, right? And it's really interesting to hear all that. And I'm a big fan of the Ho trilogy that Flo Milli's had, right? Like last year was You Still Here Ho, and then now it's Fine Ho Stay. Um,
Mhm.
this is the most pop friendly one of them.
Mhm.
This is made for the big screen.
Mhm.
I think Cardi's on it. It's really fucking good. The rapping is crazy, but
Right.
it's a blockbuster, right? It's my favorite pop rap album of the year. She is a really interesting character to me because she is talking about sexism in her music, right? She really does address that all the time.
Mhm.
She is talking about control, the pimps kind of stuff that you're talking about, but she is talking about being independent, uh, and you know, being aware of her business and coming up. Um, I just think that's really fascinating, you know. And so Megan, as an example, you remember that Moody Girl song
Oh yeah.
where she's like, "No, I'm fucked up right now. I'm
That
not."
was like that was fun because that wasn't that like the second to third last song
Yeah,
on the.
yeah. So she's like, that she is someone who can also switch and pivot into conversations that are meaningful to her,
Yeah.
and she doesn't have to be locked into sex all the time, right?
No.
Um, and I don't. There was video on social media of like Glorilla, Lotto, Flo Milli, Megan, just all kind of hanging out backstage, and they're doing posse cuts together. That
Yeah.
wannabe song remix, like this is an era of this, and these are there. It's kind of the equivalent of like the player music back in the day. Pimp rap is one thing, but the player music was more about the style and oeuvre of being someone who is dope enough to
Right.
be attractive to women, right? I'm not in the business. I'm not putting people out on the block, but I've got game, right? And these women have game.
I mean, like like Megan Thee Stallion refers to. I mean, her album was just very. I got to. It just came out today, but I got to process it. But just the way that she talks about sex is just fascinating to me.
Mm,
And she's talking about men like I've got a stable. I've got a stable of them. You know what
right,
I mean?
right.
Like, and she has a song with UGK on her,
I know it was awesome. It was
and
great.
she fits in right in there. It's not
Oh
like
yeah,
she fits in right in. They're all on
I know.
equal footing. They're talking about the same. So, and you even see like Lotto, Glorilla, all of those female rappers. They're in the same vein in terms of how their view. I guess you could say view morals. They're all in that same vein. They're kind of on the same page about what it is right now.
Right, right. No, I'm with you. Um, Yeah, I mean, so to me, Flo Millie's the best rapping one of those. Like
Hmm.
that Tiny Desk, she did two crazy kind of double time songs back to back right off the bat. No
Right.
conversation, no welcome, just bang bang. Like she hits you hard with every verse, with every song, um, while maintaining her poise and confidence.
Hmm.
Um, I but maintaining an experimental bend. None of those three albums sound the same.
Hmm.
Um, so I love it. I think she's my most fascinating character. Um, for a lot of the same reasons you said about Megan. Uh, do you have a most fascinating character?
Mm.
Do you have anyone you've been like, wow, what is this person like? Like,
I mean, I think. See, I'm gonna have to get back to that because I don't think. I mean, I think I agree with the Flo Milli. I do. I mean that for sure. I mean, I'm trying to think of when I think of character. Okay, I think of like whose story really like resonated with me.
think of it like TV show characters or movie characters.
Right. Like,
Mhm.
I think of, like to me, 50 Cent was a character, Kanye
Yes.
was a character,
Yes.
uh, Drake, Weekend was a character. Like these guys were presented like characters that you could
Right.
start following. Like DMX was a character.
Yep.
And I'm trying to think now, like what unique, interesting characters are being created by or not creative are emerging, and
I
I
would.
can't really
Yeah.
recall anything that has come to mind that's been like, oh, I'm kind of interested in this character.
I mean,
Well,
I would throw Larry June into the mix. Larry June's a character. Um,
yeah, but he's always been. I mean, I'm thinking of. I mean, Larry June's been on for. Oh, he's been on for a little while. I mean, like I'm thinking, what character in
oh,
2024, 20.
but you got to give yourself a wider berth for emerging, right? Like,
Mm-hmm,
so Flo Millie's not emerging right now. She's coming into her most fascinating
mm-hmm,
right now. And so, in the same way, I think you could make an argument that while Larry's been around for a long time, he is he's at his most fascinating at this point, especially with all the features we've seen him on, and like Mike's album, and just all these different places you didn't expect to see him.
right.
Like, so that I think you got to give yourself a wider berth on.
I do think Megan, like to tie into Megan, yeah, Megan's project was the most interesting outside of the music. That was interesting to me to hear this character because, like you said, there was some of that pimp rap, but also the vulnerability as well. There was the vindictiveness,
Yep.
and it's very interesting to see all of these mixed up into like one project.
I think you should pick Megan. Here's my argument. Okay.
Yeah.
Top earlier in the year, she gave us Hiss,
Yes.
which is crazy. Still a crazy
Absolutely.
song. And then she started destroying features, you know,
Hmm.
and killing it. And now she gives us the best album she's had in a while, right?
Hmm.
This is a rap album, bro. This is not one of those cutesy things. And so this, this has been a year where she has been a fascinating character.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this is like a ascent to the throne type of album.
I'm gonna put her on there for you. Do you want
Good.
her under? Would you pick her under voice or
Oh,
fascinating character?
character. Yeah, character.
Love it.
I mean, because to me, like this was an album where staking her claim, like, you know, I'm the top dog. I'm the best out here.
Right. Yeah. Let's get into our type shit. Right. 3-song run. 3-song run. Okay. We love 3-song runs here that establish an album, right? That really give you the heart of what the project is saying. Right? So for me, if you were like, what is your 3-song run? And part of this is the first album this year that I fell in love with. It's My Story Got Stories by Bruiser Wolf. So the first song is Let the Young Boys Eat, which is such a unique song, right? It's about how he's been a hustler for so long. He's got himself established, and he's not trying to, like we talked about earlier, kill off his competition. He's like, let him eat. And there's a sense of like, I'm gonna segue out of this anyway. Like I don't want this for me anymore. Like it's an incredible way to start an album. And then you got Two Bad Bitches with Danny Brown and Z Loopers were just like full throttle energy, crazy song. And then track 3, Waiting in the Lobby, which is fucking haunting. Especially for someone with a child. Haunting. So it's I love that 3-song opener. I don't think there's anything better for me.
So what do you look when you're evaluating your 3-song? Like, what's your criteria for like, oh wow, okay, this was a special run that I just heard.
My friend told me once, like when we were editing poetry and stuff at the poetry group, he said there's one line in the poem that's the whole poem. You have to find it, but it's there, right? You find that one line, that's what this poem's about. And once you know that, you can center everything, make it make sense. That's what that run is to me. Right? The 3-song run that best centers the album and best contextualizes everything for you.
Were there any runs that, because that's a way to think about in terms of the context of the album, that really the 3-set run that really contextualizes the album. Were there any runs from like a technical level that really like blew you away? Like, how are these 3 songs back to back to back with each other?
Yeah, I mean, and there's some that have kind of, maybe I wasn't like aware that they were the heart of it for me, but then at the end I was like, by the 13th listen I'm like, fuck, and the fucking last 3 songs on El Leon by Crime Apple and Preservation, Paw Prints in the Sand, Quanto Tequero, and Boulevard. It just escalates perfectly. And it's exactly what you want from the end of an album, where it gets real and personal and emotional. And it's almost like a renaissance, like, I don't know, not a renaissance, but in Impressionism, they took a real scene, they blurred it a little bit.
Yeah.
So it smudged it a little bit. So the colors kind of looked like what it looks like if you're squinting, it's almost like it starts that way, and then it by the end of Boulevard, you're like, holy shit, everything is so sharp and right. I just think the end of that album is perfect. But we'll talk because the Shrapnel album is gonna have dogs in that fight as well.
Mm.
The Shrapnel, ooh, that's got some. I would have to nail it down more. That thing is amazing. Um, yeah, I'm still unpacking that, but yeah.
Mm.
Do you have anything that sticks out for you?
No, I'm gonna have to go back to that and really reflect on. I like the way the context uh angle that you gave was actually really good. And I
Well, and that's the point of this. Like, we're setting the stage for what these categories
yeah,
mean, right? But do me a favor and just on that shared Google Doc we have, just kind of throw whatever you're thinking on
yeah,
whenever you think about it, so that we can keep a tally.
yeah. That's a good yeah.
Um, let's see here. Best feature. Do some best features. So weird. My best feature pick is going to be weird.
Okay.
Because Rock Marciano was a featured on Rich Ass Haitian and had one of the weird verses with a kind of a bad poop joke. It was really weird. Um, didn't love it. He's been up and down with that stuff. But man, his feature on Gauntlet, the new Brother Ali album, Love and Service, he's track 8, right? And Unjust is who did the beat, and it's just perfect. It's perfect for rock, and it is, yeah. And he's there's a very blues singy way that he enters it. Um, oof. And it
Mm.
still deals with the dealing past and everything. Man, it would say crack rock was the muse. Like he's crazy with it. It was him in his perfect space. That is the rock that is one of the best MCs to lit.
Mm.
Yeah. So, oof, and Brother Ali having to go after is a beast. But it is what he did great too. So yeah, that's a hell of a thing. And that album also has a great ending song. Uh it's called Inside. It's called Inside. It's a great
Mhm.
ending song. So there would be some stuff there. Uh any features that popped out at you?
I mean, my favorite feature is like that from the Ken with Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, with the future. Gotcha.
Future, yeah, Future Metro Boomin. I think that was like that was a masterclass uh
Yeah.
in terms of writing efficiency, in terms of it's like I was saying near the beginning of the show, like what what can you do as an artist that lets me know that you're a human? Like I know that only Kendrick Lamar could write that or deliver that verse. You know, and for me that's what I'm gravitating more towards. Like for me, I want to see as a writer, like how are you put your thoughts together in an efficient and compelling way? Like how are you delivering lines? Like how are you? And I think for me, like that verse, that guest verse, or that feature was pure artistry. Only an artist could have really delivered that verse, that feature.
Yep. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's a great pick. I'm glad because that's a totally normal person answer, and I wouldn't have come up with it because my head spins all over the place. Um, so yeah, the we got two categories left.
Mhm.
Um, and this one's interesting. Best produced project.
Mm. What are you thinking? Are like the 1-to-1 ratio? Where? What do you mean by best produced?
The album that ended up like with the best production for you, where the soundscape was just the best.
Oh, mm.
Interesting. It's an interesting one.
So we're talking like outside of, so production is, we're not even we're not even looking at lyrics or words. We're looking at,
Yeah, we're not even looking at that. We're looking at production.
so which projects do I think had the best collections of sounds
Yep.
and beatscapes? Hmm.
I will give you, I'll say mine so you can think about this and I'll make my
Okay.
case. I would right off the bat say Different Type Time, the Cavalier album.
Yeah.
Um and it was so crazy because it's not a one producer project, right?
Right.
Um but everything makes so much sense. Everything is exactly where it should be,
Hmm.
and everything, all the sounds lead into each other incredibly well.
Yeah.
It's
I would agree with that. That was definitely on, for me. That's definitely on the radar for this year. Because from what I recall, there were a lot of different types of songs, different types of sounds
different
on it.
types of song. Yeah, Can't Leave Me Alone.
Right.
Right? Like, yeah,
And they were, from what I remember, they were blend. I did like the way that they all were. I think even on the show we mentioned it. We thought of it like a house, and you were walking into different rooms. Like the house was a solid foundational house, and each room was like really well put together and interesting to be in.
absolutely. I think when we dig in more to the Shrapnel album, it'll be up there because Controller 7
Yep.
did some unbelievable stuff with the beat switches and things coming to it's an incredible project. Um oh yeah, yeah, and shout out to obviously Sean Wizard and Zilla Rock and Money Has No Owners and like that
Yep.
the coherence of that. Like so when you talk about best produced album, yes, the I want the best soundscape, but I want it to make sense together
Hmm.
as a project in a way that elevates it. You
So
know,
your value and cohesion.
cohesion elevates a project,
Yeah.
right? So like, you know, your basic attributes get you on the floor, right? This person can block shots, this person can rebound, that keeps you on the floor, right? But the little things that you add to your game make you, bring you to that next level, right?
Hmm.
Um, and this, the cohesion of those chosen sounds makes listening to Different Type Time over and over again. It makes them make even more sense every time I listen, and it builds the strength of that album, which stands in contrast to albums that are kind of thrown together.
Hmm.
He took years on that. You know what I
Huh.
mean? And that's the hidden power of that project is like it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. But
Yeah. I mean, to bring it back to interior designing, you have to have, when you're like designing interior designing a house, there's got to be a flow to it, and each room can have like its own unique characteristics, but
right,
there's got to be something that makes it a pleasurable experience walking through each room. There's got to be like a DNA, or there's got to be an order. There's got to be something that allows each room to shine, but at the same time ties them together.
Right, right.
And a great interior designer, like a great producer, will be able to figure out what that is, what that element is, and kind of have it in the project.
Yeah, no, it's true. And yeah, do you have anything, any thoughts on that for you, or where you would be asked that question today?
No, I mean, this, for me, like this, I mean, this year has been kind of like, there's been a lot of great music, but it's been, maybe as a music listener, it's almost been like existential, like questioning, like, why do I listen to music? I mean, with so many different options, like there's so many, like even today, there were at least 6 or 7 great projects released.
I listened to a lot of albums today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it gets to a point where you have like so many options, it almost becomes like paralyzing in a way, and you almost think like, what am I doing?
That is
Like
normal.
when I listen to a project, what am I getting out of a project?
Mm.
And I find myself, like, I think my music pattern, or my music listening, has evolved in a way that I need to like closely examine.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Value.
totally reasonable reaction to like too much, right? Uh I've always had thought too much was a hell of an opportunity. Like I've always been excited,
Mm.
I started my day, logged into work, and I listened to the Megan Thee Stallion album, song for song, with Lupe Fiasco,
Yeah.
until that
See, in
album
the Lupe, that's what I want to get to, that one too.
until that album ran out, and then I started mixing Sauce Waka into it, and I started mixing Stefflon Don into it, and to me, it's opportunity, it's options. I love having options. So there's no guilt. I've let go of the guilt. I'm just enjoying the options.
Right.
But I will say,
But it's almost like you go to a buffet and you can gouge yourself, but once you leave that buffet, like what's the feeling that you're getting?
well, and so think about this to build on your buffet example, right?
Yeah.
The better my options are, the pickier that I'm going to get, right? Because I'm realistic. I know that I can't eat everything at the buffet, right?
Yeah.
And my quality of life debate is this: I'd rather not eat a bunch of stuff at the buffet and be sick all night.
Right.
Right? That my quality of life goes down at that. So I'm going to try and get a solid plate, maybe 2 solid plates of the best stuff that's there. Right? So this is a musical environment, as you said, cluttered, packed. What do I need? Right? What do I need? I'm going for the best music that I can find. So, in an environment that isn't as where the options aren't as great, I'll have lots of time to talk about a really good album. But when everybody's releasing great albums, I have no time for the really good album. There's albums I absolutely adore that I haven't been able to book time to talk about on the show because there's too much great stuff happening.
Right.
Right? So,
And
yeah,
I mean, too much for me, like too much. So that, I mean, to kind of tie into my, like, this year, it's just been like a blur. You know what I mean? Like you've eaten so much food, and you've gone to the buffet, and you're like, so you can point out certain things like, oh yeah, I like the chicken wings, or I like the curly fries. But once you leave the buffet, you're almost like it's all blurred together. It's all blended together in a way. that's different, like where you go to a restaurant. So let's say you go to a restaurant specifically and you get the filet mignon
Right.
and that's that's what you ordered. You didn't order the filet mignon, the I don't know, chicken
Right.
fettuccine or whatever. You ordered that specific meal, you ate it, and then you leave the restaurant, you have an impression of your experience.
Right. 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 I went to Montreal and
Hmm.
we got smoked meat from like Schultz Deli where you get smoked
Hmm.
sandwiches, and that was incredible. But that was what we had, right? Yeah.
And so like it's the music, like the consumption of music, it's just changed. Like I don't, so I have, in terms of there's specific musical moments, songs that I really liked throughout the past 6 months for sure, but there's no necessary projects that have really stuck out because it's all blended together.
So you're not seeing a cohesive storyline of musical tendencies and things like it's all just kind of happening.
It's
Yeah.
all just like one. I mean, and it's all like it's all a blur to me. It's all blended. It's all a musical buffet to me.
And so for you, would Kendrick be the MVP so far?
Yes,
Because to your point, Kendrick is the one who cut through all of that,
yes,
right?
cut through the
Gave,
noise.
gave
Like
everyone stuff they could talk about. Yeah.
yes, because you have an artist like Drake. Drake is giving you the buffet. I mean, he even has a project like the Camila Cabello project. I don't know if you
Right.
heard that today. He's got a song in that where it's like a duet and in his Jamaican accent. Uh, I hate to say it like that. And then the very next song, he's singing. He's like singing, like straight up singing. And so Drake is someone who's going to give you a little bit, like you go to the Drake buffet, you're going to get a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and that's kind of what I was saying earlier about the artists, where they release so many projects. You're going to get a little bit of everything, but like it doesn't. Nothing really has stood out to me or resonated with me the way that Kendrick, and he's really only released, so he had to like that first.
Yeah.
Euphoria, which is probably my song of the year. Euphoria, Meet the Grams,
Not like
like
us.
that,
Yep.
and
Not
then
like us.
616 in LA. That's
Yep.
only like 5 or 6 songs, but those 5 or 6 songs have resonated with me more than like the rest of the whole year has.
Yep. I hear you. No, that's a fair thing. For me, I keep in touch with underground stuff a lot, right?
Mhm.
I'm always digging into that. And in the world of independent music, curation is really important, right?
Mhm.
And your what the point of your project is really important. So the albums are more balanced, right? There's less of a data dump, right? So I've been able to connect that way. But I totally see where you're at with it.
Right.
Um, yeah.
And I think, back in the day, when you got like a physical CD or something, that all of the songs were they were all part of one project. But nowadays, you can rip apart project. You can take, okay, I liked some of the songs on this project. Let me take those. Let me take some from over here. Let me take some from over here. And so there really hasn't been like a cohesive project to me that has really like resonated with
Yeah, that's cool. My MVP, by the way,
me. Okay.
I'm not gonna give a real name because I'm not gonna spoil it, but I'll give you a bullshit answer. I like giving bullshit.
Okay.
The West Coast.
Mm.
Kendrick, yes, killing it. Schoolboy, cute. Blue Lips, killing it,
Oh yeah.
right? Um, and
Beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, Blue is everywhere, right? I out of the blue, he's got a new album with Evidence that's coming out soon. produced by Evidence. That's going to be amazing. Like Blue's been killing it all over the place. The West is back and strong. DJ Quick released an album with Problem, who now goes by his real name. The Game was all over it. Remember the pop out just happened with all the West Coast
Oh
artists,
yeah.
everything. Like it's the West Coast is back. The the mainstream space goes up and down with whether it wants West Coast music, West Coast rap music, but when it admits that it loves it, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, and Vince, who we already talked about.
Right.
There's a lot of really great West Coast. Even the underground Young Morpheus is still killing it with making.
I mean, Anderson, No Worries.
Yeah, NX Worries. NX Worries.
NX Worries, yeah.
Yeah. No, that project's unbelievable. Like,
oh yeah, and that was a project. I just listened to that project.
Yeah.
Today, as well. And so it's almost like just the way that I consume music, because I think you really have to examine the way that you, not only how you listen to music, but how you consume it. Like you have to think about thinking and think about the way that you think. And so, I think the next, couple of weeks is really, I'm going to evaluate like how I'm consuming the music that I listen to.
Another West Coast album that is way high on my list, Seafood Sam, Standing on Giant Shoulders. That's Long Beach. So yeah, there's evaluating how you listen to music is great. Listening to it in different environments is great. Listening, I was like when we were in Montreal and we were taking the subway. Like when you're on vacation with your family, you're just around each other too much, dog. Like it's what it is. So I was like, when I go on the subway, I'm putting the music in and y'all hang out. Like,
right.
I'm gonna chill, right? And
so
that NX Worried Why Lord album was perfect for the subway. It was great. Like so So that's there's listening to these music in different environments can help, definitely. Yeah. I'm ready for recommendation corner.
Yeah, let's go.
So there's a lot of good stuff, man. It's what did I do? Oh, soul music. Aaron Frazier of Duran Jones and the Indications released a solo album called Into the Blue, which is really dope old school soul music. Really good stuff. Has the falsetto, really utilizes that. Love it. Would it give you, man, there's somebody I've emailed I would love to have on the show. And it may be too important for me. But Santana Fox in 2022 released an album called Girl Next Door. I loved it. Thought it was great. And then I found out later that she's Prodigy's daughter.
Wow.
And she just released Eye Candy, the follow-up. And it's fucking dope. It's really dope. And she has that hush whisper thing. And she has a darkness to the music that is like, she's always referencing, like, this is in my genetics, this is in my genes, I know who I am. Like she digs into that. It's dope. There's some killer moments on there. I really like that album. So and Ed Glorious and Teller Banks, The Pride and the Glory, another incredible Subway album. It's might be their best. it's fabulous. Teller's killing it, and yeah, it's awesome. So, um, those would be my primary three.
Mm.
What are you rocking? You rocking anything, or are you just
I mean, so I've been listening to s- so the so I went to Bull Moose, that's like a local thing for
yeah,
our national listeners. So I got the Rhythm Nation album by Janet Jackson.
Jackson Rhythm Nation?
Um, so I mean I've been listening to that nonstop for the past couple of weeks. I mean today was a big music day. So I listened to the Meg the Stallion project. I listened to Camilla Cabello's project, which had some interesting moments. Um, got in a little bit to the Apollo
Oh, okay.
project.
All right.
Um, so yeah, I mean there was and then there like I haven't even gotten to the Lupe Fiasco.
Oh, you gotta go.
Yeah,
I love that album. That's crazy. That album's fun.
yeah. And so I mean there's just yeah, I mean there's just a lot of good music
Yeah, dude.
coming out.
I love it. We watched Dune 2.
Yes, I saw Dune 2 for the first time a couple weeks ago as well.
It was it's a very silly movie, but
Yeah.
but it was a lot of fun.
You in terms of movies, I loved Inside Out too.
Okay. Okay.
And then I you know I liked The Bike Riders
Bike Riders. Okay.
uh with Ed Hardy. Yeah, so yeah, there's just a lot like the summer we're starting to get into
Tom
July.
Hardy?
Yeah, Tom Hardy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said Ed Hardy. That was
Yeah.
a different thing. We do that all the time on the show. We stick with
But yeah, I mean, the summers is really starting to heat up and everything is starting to, I mean, I think July is going to be ridiculous.
give me one steal of the draft. Who do
Ooh,
you think could be first round, could be second round? Who do you believe in? Stake your who?
Bronny James. I think that kid, no, I'm kidding. I do, I'm kidding. I'll leave that one alone. Steal of the draft. I think the kid, who's the kid that the Suns got? Oh, I forgot his name. Uh, the defensive guy, he was like the best defensive kid in the draft or player in the draft, but he just couldn't shoot.
Always one of those, isn't there?
I think I like Stephen Castle. I think the Castle pick was good. Um, for me, I think the NBA is more interesting when it's a collection of individuals with various skill sets and strengths and weaknesses, all coming together in terms of achieving a common goal.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's
So
yeah, Stephen Castle went 4 to
yeah,
the Spurs, right?
who went to Phoenix? I think it was like the
Was it
2026.
Ryan Dunn?
Yes, done. He's very intriguing to me, and I think I'd love to see an NBA where like they look at strengths. It's almost like you said, we had this conversation like a
Yep.
long time ago, years ago, and now it's stuck with me regarding, how do you make your strength stronger while mitigating your weaknesses.
Mhm.
So let's look at what people's strengths are and how we can use those and make them even stronger.
Absolutely. I would go Zach Edey.
Mm.
I'm a
To
big
Memphis, he went to Memphis, right?
Yeah, I'm a big Edey
Mhm.
fan. He's kind of exactly what they needed at center.
Mhm.
They've had too many, like, I don't know, like they they don't have a rough and tumble center, right? Like I've seen Zach Edey fight for a rebound, get his jersey ripped off, and come down with the rebound, right? Like he's not going to play around. He's that pain is his,
Right.
and that's who they need, you know.
And what I love about Memphis is because like if you had went by like the common form of thinking, they would have been like, okay, this guy's too big. He's not. How is he going to be able to guard drop coverage, or like how is he going to? He's not like the best shooter. Like how is he going to get?
Right.
They always emphasize the weaknesses instead of like you did, the strength and what he can bring.
Right.
And so I really hope that he proves a lot of doubters wrong.
They already have a defensive player of the year who can play help defense.
Right.
So I think he gives them the solid middle they need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that pick, but thank you as always, man, for this. And we've got guests lining up now.
Yeah, man.
We got big stuff coming. So stay tuned. I'm super excited for the upcoming shows and for these albums that are coming later in the year.
Oh yeah.
Crazy. All genres, they're just, being announced all the time. You're like, oh wow. So it's very cool. Stay up with it. Free Music Empire.
Welcome to Mars.